There wasn't a stylist in Hollywood that didn't call me. That's what launched my career.
I'm also at a point in my career where being authentic to who I am is more important than if someone is not going to like what I have to say.
It's hard to bump me as a Jew. I give you lots of leeway for Jewish humor, and you can walk all kinds of lines with me. But that was a bridge too far.
Today, we're here to talk about Jews, shoes, and the man that keeps them moving. Please welcome the innovative Stuart Weitzman.
I like that, Jews and shoes.
There you go, yeah, right?
Somehow they came together.
Yeah. Stuart, what happens that really jumpstarts Stuart Weitzman in its upward trajectory?
I got lucky.
It always takes a little bit of luck somewhere.
Yeah, but if you don't buy the lottery ticket, can you win the lottery?
Right.
I bought the lottery ticket. I decided to take a risk, a big risk. I took a third of my capital that I had saved in those 6 years that I was using to start a company. And I took a third of it, and I had built for me a mini shoe factory that would just make one pair at a time, not mass production.
Okay.
And I did that because I noticed on the red carpet in all those events, everyone had a custom-made dress, but the actresses were overlapping in their footwear. The stylist would go to a store, buy it to go with the dress, and they didn't pay attention if other stylist bought the same stuff. I thought, if I can do for footwear what Valentino and Armani are doing for dresses, maybe I found my niche. So I needed this factory to make one-of-a-kind shoes. And the first season, I called the stylist. I met at the previous job, which is where that benefit came in. And I said, I'm going to be doing this. If you ever get a client, think of me. She said, I just signed up Aretha Franklin.
Oh, yeah, I heard of her.
Oh, yeah. I said, whoa. I said, I'd love to show her some designs to go with her outfit. So she sent me a sketch of the dress. I sent her 4 sketches. They picked one. I made the shoe, and she decided she's going to wear it to the Grammys. I said, they're not going to ask her about her shoes on the red carpet. They never do. Whose jewelry? Who did your hair? Of course, the dress. Forget it. Shoes are hidden under the dress, or they don't want to pay attention. I said, so as a favor, since I'm making you this custom shoe, ask her to say, after they ask about the dress and before they move on, oh, and by the way, Stuart Weitzman, how about that? She said, well, I don't know. She's up for the Grammy. She's got a lot to worry about, but I'll mention it to her. The award comes, the ceremony's on, and she wins. She wins. I didn't know she's going to win.
Right.
She's in front of 30 million people. She's got the trophy in her hand, and she takes off her shoes and holds them in the other hand like this with the label facing out. And she said, after she thanked her writer, her mother, you know what they do, right?
Yeah.
And I also want to thank Stuart Weitzman for making me these beautiful and oh so comfortable shoes. 30 million people. Within a month.
Put a price on that kind of advertising.
Within a month, there wasn't a stylist in Hollywood that didn't call me. And before I'm selling shoes to the public, I am now the shoemaker to the stars. That's what launched my career.
That is unbelievable.
It was lucky, but I bought the ticket.
Something else you did is you moved your production to Spain.
The American shoe industry was dying. It didn't take long. In 5 years, it was over.
How much did you know about the Jewish history of Spain when you started spending time there?
A fair amount. I read Netanyahu's book about the Inquisition, his brother's book. The fellow was killed in Uganda in that raid. Truthfully, I don't think I met a non-Jewish person growing. I grew up in a synagogue of a city.
Okay.
I didn't really attach and get involved in the community because it was always there. And I went to Wharton, which they called the University of Pennsylvania. It was our nickname when I went there, 42% of the whole university.
Yeah. Well, it's looking different now, but we'll get into that.
But then I married a Southern girl, a wonderful gal who was one of a few kids in her high school that was Jewish. And she taught me the heritage, really, and the love for it. We went to Israel, bought mitzvahs of our daughter there, and just started to get involved. She, in particular, who had more time, of course, than me, and became president of this, involved in that, and all different, you name the organization, she's had a few years at least with it. I became very, very proud of where I came from. I learned more when I took my 2 kids to Amsterdam. I wanted them to see the Anne Frank house, right? they wanted to see the red light district, but that had to come after.
Yeah.
So we went to Anne Frank's house. I wanted them to have that heritage. And then we went to Oslo. In Oslo is the Nobel Prize Museum. No, I'm sorry. It's in Stockholm.
Okay.
It was founded by a Norwegian, Alfred Nobel, but he put it in Sweden to keep the family politics apart from it.
Okay.
Good idea. And I remember taking her to the Jewish nation, as it was called. 32% of all Americans who won Nobel Prizes were Jewish. Now, I knew that, and I wanted them to know that. If I said it, it goes in here and out the other ear.
Right.
But for them to read it, and I think 23 of all prizes in
It's
all
it's like
countries.
22% or something. We just had one of them on this show, Dr.
really?
Drew Weitzman.
Yeah, it became a big part of my life. And I began to give talks about why Jewish culture and heritage is so important. Even if you think man created God, doesn't get in the way of being who we are and Jewish and what we can be proud of. I mean, my God, the 7 companies in Hollywood, all Jewish founders. Broadway, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
What percentage of Broadway musicals do you think have had a Jewish playwright or lyricist?
Or
One or the other.
it's got to be something like 85%.
Try 97.
Oh my gosh, 97.
I did a documentary for public television that they still run called The Broadway Musical, A Jewish Legacy. It's a wonderful story about, goes back from Berlin and up to today, up to Book of Mormon, which is Jewish writers. And that made me proud.
Yeah.
It really did. It was quite exciting. I found an essay by Mark Twain. We're talking 150 years ago.
Right.
And in it, Mark Twain says, in spite of their infinitesimal size of population and the pressures they've been under by their surrounding citizens, the Jews have accomplished more than nations of 100 million. That was 150 years ago. Now, I think of it as, I think of today's, from Hollywood on up. That's what, and Einstein, or that's what, and maybe the kids today are thinking of Zuckerberg and Sergey Brin. And
Yeah.
so my ending line is, you're the ones to make sure that your children have that kind of success and heritage to fall back on.
What do you think is the most important way to instill Jewish pride in young people?
Comes from the parents.
That's for sure.
Teach them about the Jewish heritage. They have to do that. When I meet students who went to Jewish camp and are now grown up, or went to Israel for birthright,
Yeah.
they have a different attitude than even my children who didn't do either.
I think sort of the key takeaway is intentionality. And it's not something we can take for granted no matter who we're surrounded by. If we don't intentionally make it important, it's not going to be important.
And look at the accomplishments of that startup nation. It's just amazing. They've won more Nobel Prizes in Israel than all of the Muslim world.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the supermodel of all supermodels, Miss Cindy Crawford. Cindy, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
When I first started the show, I had my big sort of guest wish list and didn't think to put Cindy Crawford on it. First of all, because I didn't know that we'd ever cross paths. But second of all, I didn't know that you were someone that I should have on that list. And third of all, once I did realize that, I actually reached out to your team, got an immediate no, which was not the case when I got to see you in person. You gave me an immediate yes, I'd love to, took 2 seconds. And that's actually something that's happened to me, and I know other Jewish content creators quite a bit, where the artist says yes, but the reps say no. And I'm just curious, what do you think that's about?
I mean, who knows? But one thing
I
could
have
just
some
be,
ideas.
So I was going to say, one thing could just be like, I get a lot of podcast requests, but normally things get passed by me. I think probably, and I think this might be what you're alluding to, is that, for most of my career, which I've been in the spotlight for now, almost 40 years, haven't really gotten involved in politics or divisive issues. And my team probably wants to keep it that way. And what is crazy to me, and even in your intro saying that I'm such an ally, I don't really feel like I've done anything special. But that people in the grocery store come up to me and, they're like, thank you so much for, speaking out. And I'm like, I'm just speaking out like as a human being. It's so crazy to me that just a very small, like doing a photograph with a Holocaust survivor is somehow controversial.
Yeah.
I think about like how I was raised, in the Midwest, I didn't know a single Jewish person growing up. I mean, we were the Catholic or Protestant. I was Protestant. I am Protestant. When I did move to New York or the city, and like literally all my friends are Jewish in New York, I was just like open. I was just like a nice Midwestern girl, open. Like there was no conflict about that. And even, my husband's Jewish, and neither family had a conflict about that. So the fact that we're like going backwards somehow, it's shocking. I don't understand it.
Yeah. It's frustrating from my point of view where I sit, where, as you said, taking a picture with a Holocaust survivor shouldn't be controversial. It isn't. I think the perception, sadly, that even touching something Jewish, having nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with current events, quite the opposite, is quote unquote controversial.
When I was posting something, I think with Noah Tishby, we did something for Hanukkah last year.
Yeah.
And someone was like, you're going to want to turn off your comments. And I was like, I don't think that my followers are going to be hateful. And honestly, they pulled through for me.
Love to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, I think, again, it depends who your audience is, but my audience was totally in alignment with where I am. So I didn't feel like, wow. And maybe like some young artist or whatever, maybe they feel like, wow, if I do this, I'm going to lose my core audience. I don't feel that, but I'm also at a point in my career where I think being authentic to who I am is more important than if someone is not going to like what I have to say.
Yeah.
And I certainly am not trying to shove any politics in anyone's face. As I said before, I'm just like, it's like a human instinct.
You were eating a jelly donut.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about your kind of Jewish journey that you've been on, which, I'll take us back to 1998. When you, as you mentioned, your husband is Jewish, Randy Gerber. Mm-hmm. How much exposure did you have to the Jewish community, like inside the community, before that marriage?
Oh, a lot.
A lot. Through your friend circle.
I think even, starting at one of my really good friends at Northwestern, her mother is a Holocaust survivor. Her mother was raised in Israel. She currently lives in Jerusalem. Her name is Ruthie. Well, Ruthie, but Ruthie.
Shout out to Ruthie.
And yes, and I like whenever I was having to do like my first Seder plate or whatever, I would always call her, and we would jokingly call her Dial-A-Jew.
Nice.
Because like she would tell me like what I needed on the plate, because this was before the internet. And now I could just like go on YouTube and make it
right.
perfect.
Hey, Google, what goes on the Seder plate?
So through her, and then when I moved to New York, one of my best friends who was raised in Minnesota, she's Jewish, she's a makeup artist, Sonia. One of my first girlfriends I met in New York, Karen, she's Jewish. And so like I went to their nephew's bar mitzvahs and I would do Passover with them, or my favorite one is Rosh Hashanah.
Nice. That's one of my favorites too, for sure. Why is that your favorite?
It's just more of a celebration. And it's just like I love Thanksgiving the most of like American holidays, because there's not the pressure of gift giving and it's not a heavy holiday. It's just an excuse to get people together and have tradition. And I think Jewish culture is so full of that. And even like my friend Ruti, like she is Orthodox, so she does Shabbat, and like I can't talk to her from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. And just like her explaining to me, she was raised that way and she has raised her own children that way, like how much benefit that she personally gets from having that unplugged time with her family.
Yeah.
It's not something I do, but I'm interested. I'm a lifelong student. So like learning about Judaism or the cultures of Judaism, that's interesting for me. Even when, for instance, when my son was born, I have my kids at home. So you don't, like when you have your kids at home, they don't just automatically do a circumcision. And I wouldn't probably have gotten my son circumcised because you're like this perfect little baby. My husband's like, we're getting him circumcised. Like that was a non-negotiable. But I said, if we're going to do it, I want it to mean something then. Like, so we did do a bris. I had never been to a bris before.
Wow.
By the way, I think I almost passed out.
The moms do not like the bris.
Oh,
I mean, that's across the board.
Yeah. I loved, the symbolism, the ritual, the idea that it means something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Something else you did back in the day, in 1992, you visited Israel for a Capezio shoot. A bunch of amazing photos of you there. What do you remember about what it felt like to be there back in 92?
A few things I remember is we were there on Shabbat, and then I remember like the elevator had like all the buttons were already pressed already or something because you couldn't press.
You have the Shabbat elevator situation.
Okay, I remember that. And then, I remember shooting, but really what I remember more is I stayed a few extra days, and my friend Ruchi, like she took me around and we did Masada and we did the bath, the Dead Sea, where you cover yourself with mud, and just went to some more local places too. I always love seeing any country through someone who lives there.
Of course.
So I think I remember those things as much as the photo shoot. The photo shoot was kind of the excuse to get me there.
Yeah.
And then I think the one thing that I was really shocked by, and this just says a lot about maybe how American education, we don't do a great job on educating about things outside of America, I think, but how small Israel is.
Yeah.
That you can like drive the whole country in a day. You're like, wait, this is what we've, like, there's been so much fighting over, and it's, it's just such a it's not even close to the size of California, right? It's like tiny.
How did that impact the way you felt about the people, the culture, the place?
When you get to go to any place, like on a photo shoot, like you kind of come in, the red carpet's rolled out for you. I'm like in full glam. So of course, like the young soldiers, they were happy to see me. It was
Can't
like,
imagine. It's a dream come true.
25-year-old Cindy Crawford, and so, but everywhere we went, even like when we went with the Bedouins and we went, more in the desert, like everyone, first of all, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful country. And everywhere we went, like they were happy to have us there and be in the photographs with me. And it was a great trip.
I also read while you were there, you attended a random bar mitzvah. Is that true?
I think what it might be is there was a bar mitzvah in the hotel.
Going on while you were there.
And like someone was like, hey, go say hi to the bar mitzvah boy. And I just probably came in and,
made his night.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So let's go back to your marriage. You've been married almost 30 years.
Yes.
How did the Jewish aspect of your relationship start showing up in your life? I mean, you married a Jewish guy, but, what does that look like?
Right. Well, my husband is not very religious, I guess.
Like not super observant.
No. Right. I put it this way. I know way more about Jewish like tradition than he does.
Why do you think that is?
Again,
I mean.
Oh, because I don't like empty ceremony, right? So if I am hosting Passover, I want to.
You're not just doing it because we do it. You want
and I want to understand it, and then I kind of did my abbreviated Haggadah or whatever, what the parts that I think are meaningful to. Because there was no way my family was sitting through 3 hours of that.
Yeah, I get it.
Even though we had the Folgers one too that everyone else has. Like I have the blue Folgers coffee one that my mother-in-law gave me.
Oh, amazing.
And I was like, yeah, if our kids want to get bar mitzvah, great. The thing I love about bar mitzvah, and this goes back to what I love about the traditions, is that, and I just was at a bar mitzvah, is that it's the one time in your life where you're recognized just for being you. Not because you graduated, not because you got married. It's just like you. It's like recognizing you as an individual human being. And I love that. So, and even my son still, he says he wants to go to Israel to get bar mitzvah. So who knows? Maybe one day he will.
This is one of the sort of big topics within the Jewish world in 2026 that we talk about, which is, how to be more inclusive. Or if you're, extra religious, it's like there's too much exclusivity and they're not, they feel like they need to keep the gate down. And I think it's so important to keep the gate as open as possible.
Yeah, I've never felt any of my friends, I feel like they're just very welcoming and they want especially with Friday night dinner or whatever, it's like the more the merrier,
totally.
And it doesn't have to be, it can look very different.
Yes.
for different people.
But like, it's so isolating and hostile out there that when anybody shows just any sort of recognition and humanity and kindness, it's so appreciated. So you were in this video with a bunch of other celebs just saying, I'm against anti-Semitism, and that's it. It's like, 5 seconds.
I know. But, I think because of like my friends that I was talking about, like live in New York, like Sonia and Karen and other friends, like they've told me stories that their kids don't have their Jewish stars out, or they change their last names on their Uber so that they don't sound Jewish. And, my kids are half Jewish. So I'm like, wait, how are we in a world, like, how is that happening? In the United States, like in New York City.
Yeah.
I'm just so like, I think I'm like in shock. And in a way, I don't want to think it's real, but then you see real things happening on the news, so you have to let it in, even though you don't want to, obviously. Like, it's mind baffling to me that this is a reality that we're living in today.
Yeah.
And I have to say, social media is just poison. It's so easy to spew hate behind a keyboard. Because there are people that would be that hateful across a table, but not near as many as are that hateful online.
Totally.
And I think when I started seeing it in my feed, it was like, wow, there's a shift here. There's something really scary happening.
Hey fam, if you're loving the podcast and want to show me some love back, join the Kehillah, my subscriber-only insider community. Members get exclusive access to weekly bonus content, limited edition merch drops, monthly Zoom calls with me, and more. We're building something really special here, and I know you'll love being a part of it. So head to beingjewishpodcast.com/join and sign up for the Kehillah today. Or don't, but then you'll feel guilty. And we all know about Jewish guilt, right? Don't say I didn't warn you. All right, back to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Costanza Bonanza, Jason Alexander. Thank you for being here.
Costanza Bonanza.
Not bad, huh?
Not bad. Somebody was writing.
Hey.
Somebody was up all night.
That's right.
Okay.
I'm glad that's a fresh one for you.
It's a fresh one.
What does being Jewish mean to you? Like, what does it look like today for Jason Alexander?
It's a shirt I can't take off, that's for sure. I believe that I walk through the world basically wearing, the history of the Jewish people on me. The way I speak, the way I think, my sense of humor, the way I was educated, the way I think about community, the way I think about comedy and communication, it all is informed by the very deep Jewish influences and roots that I have had since I was a kid. What it does not contain, much to the chagrin of many of my fellow Jews, is much of the religiosity of being a Jew. I have great faith. I'm very spiritual. I believe in God. I've never been, even when I was going through my religious Jewish training, I have never been attracted to or much of a fan of any kind of formal religious doctrine or practice. My current credo is build bridges, not borders. And I find that my exposure to religion and religious people gives me more borders than bridges. So it has never been a big part of my celebration of my Jewishness. Although my boys were bar mitzvahed, we usually have a Seder, we do the Hanukkah camp, we do some of the stuff.
Joyous occasions for you?
They are, and it's important to the boys. When Dana and I had to make the decisions, starting from when they were born, we thought about, are we circumcising these boys? Are we doing the Bris thing? And do we send them to Hebrew school? Do we bar mitzvah them?
Yeah.
I think they had a far better Jewish education experience than I had when I was growing up. But, when they were railing against it, because it was taking up their weekend, they said, you guys don't even do this. Why are we doing it? I said, because there are people out there that will kill you because you're a Jew. So you might as well know what you're dying for. And I think they found the value in it. And Gabe, particularly my older son, he surprises me because he'll do some things that I didn't expect, that I don't do. Like, I don't really observe the high holidays. Gabe fasts on Yom Kippur every year. It's important to him. My Jewishness, my Judaism, is something I've never walked away from, that I'm rather proud of, that informs everything I do. And the only crap I take is that people go, but you changed your name. And I go, I didn't change my name.
You have
I
a
took
stage name.
A stage name. If you look at my license, I can't get on a plane without being Jay Greenspan.
You have a quote that I really like that I want to read back to. Acting is a pretty useless profession. It serves the actor because it is our passion and joy, and it can provide great joy to the audience as well. I just appreciate you saying that, because I feel the same way. And I think a lot of time, actors sort of speak as if, there's a higher calling there, or they're really impacting things in a meaningful way, which of course entertainment and joy and, feeling like you're being seen with what is hugely important. But at the end of the day, you're doing it because you like doing it.
That's what you got into it for. Yeah, you may I found that I stumbled into a grace that I didn't realize was possible in my profession. My mom was a nurse and a nurse educator all her life, and she really did want me to go into medicine. I mean, she'd try. I had many jobs in the hospital. She really tried to push me that way. And when I knew that, I was going to potentially have some success as an actor, and I was certainly going to pursue it, I actually said to her, sorry, Ma, because she always used to say, the greatest life you can live is a life of service.
Mm-hmm.
If you can live a life of service to other people, no matter what you do, you're in the sweet spot.
Yeah.
And I'd said to her, I think I'm kind of serving me. I'm sorry.
It's pretty good.
I don't know how to, I'll try and do some other nice things along the way, but I think my general work in this life is going to be very self-serving. And it wasn't really till I got Seinfeld, and Seinfeld started to click, where the quality of the interactions with the fans changed from, hey man, I love your work, hey, you're really funny, hey, all that good stuff.
Right.
Which again is sort of like, you're great, you're great, into what happens all the time now, especially since it's still out there in a big way. I hear from people or meet people every week who come up and say, I was going through dark stuff. I lost a parent or a child. I was unemployed. I was financially, my health was gone. I was serving overseas. I mean, just things were dark. You got me through.
Wow.
I could watch what you did with your friends, and I could laugh again, and I could get clean for a little bit. And when I started hearing that over and over and over, I went, oh, there's a service to this. If you're lucky enough, there's a service to this.
I love that. I love hearing that. So let's talk about Seinfeld, that old chestnut.
Seinfeld. That was a TV show?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when I was just a kid.
Yeah.
I didn't really watch it.
Yeah.
Okay. So Seinfeld, very Jewish show in the specific New York Ashkenazi kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any particularly fun Jewy bits or moments that stand out to you, or that maybe you influenced their inclusion?
Oh, I didn't influence crap.
Nothing.
But, no, I think, when Judaism was allowed to, enter the show, it was always really fun. I mean, the most blatant, because the cards are on the table, is Bryan Cranston's character, Tim Whatley, the dentist who converts to Judaism for the jokes.
Just wants to be in on it.
And Jerry being offended not as a Jew, but as a comedian.
Right.
I think that kind of stuff was great. When they allowed themselves to embrace these characters that Jerry and Larry knew so well from their own lives, that was always glorious fun. I know people think there was some sort of stance about it. There really wasn't.
Yeah, no.
Jerry and Larry would both tell you, character was not important, plot was not important, nothing was important. Funny. Is it funny?
Jokes.
We do it.
Right.
That was it.
There was one Jewish themed episode that you didn't find so funny.
Yeah.
Called The Bris.
Yeah.
Season 5, episode 5. You come to the table read, and the portrayal of the Moyle character was so offensive that you spoke to Larry David about it. What was that decision like for you to I'm going to approach the boss and talk about it?
Well, I had done this once or twice before,
Okay.
not about Jewish issues, but...
Anything that wasn't George related that you'd gone up and spoken to him about before?
Well, the famous one is that very early on, within the first 4 episodes, when Julia was not in the pilot, and then she was brought into the show. Thank God.
Right.
But there was an episode called The Pen, where Jerry and Elaine go down to Florida to visit his family, and Kramer and George are not in that episode. Now, I was a New York-based actor living out my dream. My fantasy as a kid was to be working on Broadway. The 1980s, my whole career was on Broadway.
Yeah.
I was making a great living, living in New York. I wasn't looking for film and television. And now suddenly I'm in this TV show that I'm enjoying. I like it very much, but it's not building fast. It's sitting on the bubble.
Right.
And the head writer writes me out of an episode. So I went to Larry at the next table read and went, if you do it again, do it permanently. If you don't need me to be here every week, I don't need to be here. Now, if I had known what Seinfeld was going to become, I would have shut my damn mouth. But at the time, there was no indication of that. And I knew that I had a career that I loved back in New York. So I could say it with conviction. So Larry was used to seeing me coming on occasion.
Okay.
The thing about the Bris was that the character of the Moyle, which especially the non-Jews, is one of these very cloaked in mystery. And what the hell is this where you cut off the foreskin of the penis in this primitive ceremony, you mutilate the child, and it has all kinds of, if you want to look at through an anti-Semitic eye, this is an easy portal to look through.
Yeah.
And here, to my mind, it's the first depiction of the Moyle on television that I've ever heard about.
Right.
And you're writing him not as a flawed character, that's fine, as a child hater.
Right.
A mutilating child hater. And I went, Larry, I can't stand behind that. You can't do that. I can't. You can do it. I can't stop you. But I won't be in that episode. And if asked, I will speak out against it. I'm telling you, it's hard to bump me as a Jew. I give you lots of leeway for Jewish humor, and you can walk all kinds of lines with me. But that was a bridge too far. And he was really taken aback. He went, "You're serious about that?" And I got to tell you, in my memory, Julia was with me. And Julia's not Jewish, but I believe that Julia was with me on that, because I don't think I was doing it alone.
Julia, let us know if it's true.
Yeah. But anyway, they did a major pass on it and tried to soften it. And I went along with it. I still thought it was an offensive episode. It's not.
Did you feel that as you guys were shooting that scene?
Yeah, I did. I can't speak for anybody else. No. I just thought, this is not making it funnier. I mean, there's lots of ways to present, if you were a nervous Moyle, that's funny.
Yeah, that's it. That's the bit.
A guy who needs a steady hand, you'd have fun. But to make him unbelievably unpleasant.
Right. Obviously, we have a different mindset in the culture these days, in the way that we think for all cultures, how we're presenting things. So, now knowing that that's a thing, that like for some people, Jews are Seinfeld, like that is a Jew. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
There's plenty there. If you hate the Jews, there's plenty there to go see. And if you find the Jewish people to be different than you, but interesting, there's plenty there for you. And if you find the Jews to be entertaining as hell, there's a lot there for you. Whatever window you want to have on Judaism, you can find the backing for it in our show.